Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Front Porch Tailgate. I'm Michael Scott.
And I'm Byron Hazley. Welcome to the 28th episode of the podcast.
That's right. We have a great show lined up for you guys today. Byron, how is your week going?
Well, Mike, I just returned back to the office today. Had a full schedule of meetings and conversations. It was nice to get back into the regular flow, hustle and bustle. What about you, Mike?
Well, Byron, while you were busy flying home from Miami, I got myself involved in a whole whirlwind of conspiracy theories. I've been paying attention to the coronavirus pandemic, and I've also been trying to keep dibs on this crazy NFL free agency period that's been going off since Monday.
Oh, man, the theories are running around, and so is this free agent bug that's flying around, man. And don't forget those trades, man. Holy smokes.
Yeah, there's a lot going on out there. We're going to touch base on all that for you guys today. We're going to talk about the NFL free agency period extensively. We're going to talk about some coronavirus updates on professional sports. I'm not going to waste your time talking about conspiracy theories because we could sit here for hours.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I know you and I had a nice conversation. You've got some predictions for the next 10 days, so we see where we'll end up. I think there's some truth to your estimations, but it's kind of a foregone conclusion. But regardless, Mike, let's jump into this podcast. I know that's what the people tuned in for.
Let's get it going, baby. So, first off, probably the biggest story of NFL free agency thus far. Tom Brady, the GOAT, is not returning to the New England Patriots. Came out, released a statement on social media yesterday saying that he would not be back for the 2020 season. There's now rumors, and it's pretty much a foregone conclusion as being reported by Adam Schefter, that he's going to be playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Byron, what do you think about all this?
I believe it's been confirmed, Mike, that he's going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, until the signature is on the dotted line, it does not mean nothing.
Tomorrow.
We've seen guys back out before.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Mike, I think this is good for the sport. It's weird. I know people have been going in and making those images of Tom Brady in a Tampa Bay uniform, and it just looks weird to see. I got to tell you that, man.
I think they're going to be
really
they're going to be switching back. They're going to be switching back to those older red style uniforms this year, is what I'm hearing. So it might be a better look than those nasty ones that they've been wearing the past couple of years. If you're Jameis Winston, you got to be pissed because you went out and got LASIK surgery just so you could watch your team bring in a whole nother quarterback.
Yeah, that kind of brings up the question, what's next for Jameis? But, right now we'll keep the focus on Tom. How do you feel? I know that you've been a Patriots fan, so what are your thoughts on this, Mike? What's your feelings?
Well, we discussed this a little while ago, and I really think Tom Brady, at this point in his career, there's talk that he wanted to leave. I think he wanted to leave because he wants to get paid. He wants to be fairly compensated for the level of talent and play that he's had in the NFL. And I also think this whole thing's an ego clash between him and Belichick. Like, Belichick's probably sitting here thinking, I can win with anybody. I did it with Matt Castle. Tom Brady's saying, I got this chip on my shoulder. I've had it since University of Michigan. I've proved everybody wrong, and I'm still not getting the proper respect. Now I'm going to go out here and I'm going to get Bill Belichick's respect and show him that I am the greatest quarterback of all time. And I think he finds himself with that in a good situation. And the reason is Chris Godwin, one of the receivers for the Buccaneers last year, graded out as the best receiver in the NFL by Pro Football Focus. And then you also have Mike Evans, who is the only other receiver besides Randy Moss to start his career with 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. So I think he's got a lot of talent around him. O.J. Howard's there, a good young defense that probably would have been in the playoffs last year if Jameis hadn't turned it over 30 times. And there's rumors now that they may be going out and getting Todd Gurley. So I think it's a good situation for Tom Brady.
Well, let's get one thing straight here. I know you said Pro Football Focus had Chris Godwin as the number 1 wide receiver, but he's not even the number 1 wide receiver on his team, and he didn't get treated
graded
that way
out as the number 1 wide receiver.
I understand that, but like I was saying, he wasn't the number 1 wide receiver on his team. The guy that was number 1 was Mike Evans. He's the one who faced consistent top corners or double coverages, which freed up space for Chris Godwin to eat, and boy, did he have a great season and eat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think this will be interesting to see. I know Mike Evans has been known as more of a vertical threat. Jameis Winston, he's been one to push the ball down the field. Bruce Arians likes to push the ball down the field, which has not been Tom Brady's niche or forte in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in Tampa. I know I've heard murmurs of Todd Gurley on the move, and this would be a good destination for him. Although I think they should probably go into the draft and get someone, but who knows?
Right.
Who knows
I agree with you.
Happen.
Well, you gotta think by the Buccaneers making this move, they're essentially going all in to try to win now. So if you're going up and you're going out and you're picking up a Todd Gurley, you're thinking you're picking him up for 1 to 2 years. No one cares about his knees long term. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. They're going to get that guy, pick him up, and if they do get him, they're going to run him into the ground on their way to the playoffs. I'll tell you that right now.
Now with those weapons on the outside, he ain't be running that much. They got to feed that pill around.
Hey, his knees can't take that much, brother. So let me ask you this, Byron. Where do you see the Patriots going from here?
To be honest with you, Mike, I've been looking at all the transactions that have taken place for the Patriots. Tom Brady's not the only guy that they've shown the door or at least walk out of it. So I think they might be hitting the reset button here. Maybe for a year, maybe 2, and just trying to reset things and get back to where they want to be. Don't get me wrong.
I completely agree with you.
They'll still be competitive. We're not talking about like a 3 and
they're not going Dolphin tank.
13 team. No. Maybe 8-8. 7-9.
They're going to do a Pittsburgh Steelers kind of thing. They're going to be scrappy this year.
Yeah, I
completely agree with you.
I'm really interested to see what they do at quarterback, though. Wouldn't it be interesting if Jameis went there?
You want to hear my theory on it?
Sure, let's hear it, Mike.
Unless they can get Jameis Winston for a bargain, and I'm talking about a real bargain, which basically the quarterback position, when you're going on to your second contract, doesn't really allow for that. Because I don't think Bill Belichick's going to give Jameis Winston $20 million. I don't think he's going to give him, and I don't think he's going to sign for 15 because he does have a big arm talent. He did throw for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns this year. I think what's going to happen here, there's talk in the Patriots organization that Bill Belichick is very big on Jarrett Stidham. I think he's going to start this year. And they're going to see how it goes. And in the event that he doesn't turn out to play very well and the Pats don't do well, they're going to take a run at maybe drafting a guy next year if it goes completely south like Trevor Lawrence in the draft, rebuild them with him.
Interesting. Yeah.
But things would have to go completely south for that to happen. I think they're definitely going to ride this wave and see how Jarrett Stidham does.
I mean, if they start Jarrett Stidham for 16 games, they may go 4-12.
That's what I'm saying.
With you. Yeah.
I'm not very big on him at all. I wasn't big on him in college. And I don't know if Bill Belichick recently took up drinking, because I definitely wouldn't have let Tom Brady go, and I definitely wouldn't be taking on the 2020 NFL season with Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about...
He's getting a little older, so I don't know if he's coming down with, like, dementia or, like, Alzheimer's or what it may be, but he's not thinking clearly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, something's going on. I mean, I understand his situation with Brady. Him and Tom, they haven't seen eye to eye in some years now. It's been a professional
dating back to the Jimmy
relationship.
Garoppolo deal.
And even a little bit before that, you know, Mike, I know they had some gripes here and there, but I think when they lowballed Tom, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for him. He was done at that point.
Oh, absolutely. There was rumors last week coming out that he was offered a very small contract, far lower than what he expected. And that's not a good look, you know, if you're trying to do right by your 6-time Super Bowl winning championship quarterback that's been with you for 20 years. Now, there's a problem because they both have A-type personalities. I mean, we could go on about the Belichick-Brady thing for days, but what it really says to me is there's just too many roosters in the head house, and somebody had to go.
I agree with that, Mike. Agree with that. So we saw Tom leave. It wasn't Bill, and I wish Tom the best down there in Tampa. We'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a very interesting year if we're able to play.
Absolutely. Let's switch up gears here, though. Let's talk about another changing of the guard at the quarterback position down in Carolina. It appears that Cam Newton is out and Teddy Bridgewater is in. Byron, this is your guy. Take the floor.
Yeah, so news broke on Tuesday that the Panthers had given Cam Newton permission to look for a trade. And then Cam immediately responded to the Panthers directly on Twitter, I believe, stating that don't try to play him. I'm not going to let you control the narrative. I want to be in Carolina. This was your decision to move on from me. So he's not happy about it. He understands that it's a business, but he wants everyone to know that he wanted to be in Carolina, and they elected to move on from him. So looking like an ugly split. They immediately, after they announced that, there was news that broke that they had agreed to a deal with Teddy Bridgewater. The terms were 3 years, $60 million. So, I mean, that's a healthy contract. I mean, $20 million per year for a guy that was a backup last season. And I don't know. I think he may do well in that system because it's really quick throws. He doesn't have to have a big arm, kind of like what he did with New Orleans. There's a lot of quick decisions being made, you know, and he's been known to be a precision passer. So Teddy should do pretty good down there. But I'm interested to see what happens with Cam. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Here's my thing with Cam. We've talked about him extensively, too, on past episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Newton, we've known for a while that this has been coming. The writing's been on the wall, and now finally he's done like dinner. Okay, this guy has been injury prone for the past 3 years. He hasn't been the same guy he was since he won the NFL MVP, dropped that fumble in the Super Bowl, didn't go get it, you know. And what you have now is you have a new owner in Carolina that's progressive. He's living in the present, not the past. Mm-hmm. You have a new head coach who's an up-and-coming head coach with NFL experience. You also have a coordinator coming out of the college ranks like the head coach who was the best offensive coordinator in college football last year. And now he's coming, bringing that Saints-style offense with him that Teddy Bridgewater's familiar with to the NFL for his first big coordinator job. And you have Teddy Bridgewater, who's familiar with the system, coming over to play quarterback for the Panthers. Now, Teddy Bridgewater, in his past 21, 22 starts, I believe is like 15-6 or 16-6. So the guy doesn't necessarily put up big time numbers, but he does win football games. And a lot of those games were one possession games. So I think getting him for $20 million that I think he's about 27 or 28 years old, he's got a lot of career left for an NFL quarterback. I think it's a good fit for him all the way around. And Cam Newton, unfortunately, is just not happy about it, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, because at this point, Cam Newton has become a liability, a financial liability.
Interesting. A liability, you call him, huh?
He's been unhealthy for the past 3 years, and you can't afford to take him to the next level and pay him $25 to $30 million a year.
From that perspective.
Because
gotcha.
what you don't need is your starting quarterback on injured reserve getting $25 million a year when you're hitting the reset button throughout the whole organization.
Each year, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, all valid points, Mike. Like I said, I think Teddy will be successful down there, and he's a more precision passer than Cam. But what do you predict for Cam?
Do you like the move?
For Carolina? For Carolina, yeah. I think they could have gone about it a different way rather than state it the way they did, is kind of do what the Lions have been doing with Darius Slay, saying behind the scenes that he's available, rather than coming out and saying Cam can go seek a trade.
Well, Cam was pretty upset about this. He went and commented on the Panthers' post on social media. I'm sure Cam Newton probably didn't expect this to be coming. He was probably out scarf shopping when the news broke.
Oh, man. Just lay off Cam in this fashion, man.
Dude, he looks like Prince out there. It's ridiculous.
6'6" Prince.
You're an NFL quarterback, okay? Not a pop record star. So, I get it. These guys dress up, and I get it. Some of them are really into fashion, like Russell Westbrook, and some of these other guys. But Cam Newton, the scarf over the head, looking like Aunt Jemima, he took it a little too far.
So, I guess back to my question, Mike. Where do you see Cam fitting in? What do you think is next for Cam?
Honestly, Byron, it's going to be really tough because there's a handful of teams out there that still need quarterbacks. You're looking at the Miami Dolphins. You're looking at the L.A. Chargers. There's the Cincinnati Bengals.
The Raiders?
We'll get to that, but it was Marcus Mariota.
Ah, okay.
So there's a handful of teams out there that still need quarterbacks. The problem is a handful of those teams remaining are teams that are expected to go get a quarterback in the draft. Now, what I could see happening, because at first I was going to say Cam Newton, maybe he'll end up in Chicago. Well, they went out and signed Nick Foles earlier today. Mm-hmm. So that's not happening. What I could see potentially happening, because I can't think of anybody that would legitimately want to bring Cam Newton in to start, he's either going to find a backup job somewhere, possibly he could be competing for the job in New England. He could also end up going to Washington, who's not very big on Dwayne Haskins right now, and signing a 1 or 2 year prove-it deal with the Redskins to play for Ron Rivera, who he's played for most of his career.
Oh, I like that, Rivera. They just brought in Thomas Davis. So the Redskins, that is.
This is a trend you see throughout the NFL a lot now, is where guys are starting to jump ship and go play for coordinators that have moved on somewhere else as head coaches. So it's a possibility, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Or their head coaches who have moved on to go elsewhere.
What about you? Do you see him going anywhere?
I thought he might be a good fit with the Patriots, and I just can't see him being a backup, Mike. He's too big of a personality to be a backup. So I think someone's going to bring him in to be their starter. I don't know who that is.
Let me tell you something. When you got 3 kids and a wife and a big house and a lot of bills, sometimes you got to take a job that you don't want to take. If he's not drawing considerable starting interest, he's going to be a backup somewhere or be competing for a job. Now, let me ask you this, Byron, because you threw out a theory earlier. And I'm not sure how, deeply grounded you are in this theory, but you had suggested that since the Cowboys can't come to terms with Dak Prescott, that you could potentially see in a Dak Prescott trade and seeing Cam Newton end up in Dallas. Now, how realistic is that in your mind?
Not very. It's just something that I could, maybe they just say, all right, Dak, we've talked to you enough. We're going to let you go. But they already put the exclusive franchise tag on him. So they would have to revoke that, let him be a free agent, and bring in Cam.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very unlikely that happens, Mike.
Or they could work out a sign and trade with somebody else.
Right. Yeah. I could also see Cam with the Chargers, with the LA Chargers. They need kind of a name out there, and he's a big personality. Being out there in LA, he might be a good fit, but
the coach,
I also think the
coach
Chargers
says he's going with Tyrod Taylor this year.
What?
Their coach, it's been known throughout the NFL circles for probably a month or so now that the LA Chargers are planning to go with Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterback and probably draft a quarterback to groom behind him.
Anthony Lynn, you...
Oh. Anthony Lynn must be trying to lose his job.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
Tyrod Taylor, come on, man. Are you kidding me?
Hey, he's capable of winning football games. He took Buffalo to the playoffs a few years ago. He doesn't turn it over. Be a great guy to learn from if you're a up-and-coming quarterback from the draft.
Wow.
And he knows Tyrod Taylor knows that's his role. He knows he's a stopgap. He's a transition quarterback at this point. I'm sure next year he'll be playing for another team that's tanking and going out to get a top pick.
Unbelievable. Well, there's teams that are running out of quarterbacks that need quarterbacks, man. I got to be honest with you. There's not very many out there. I think, trying to think forward.
You could maybe. What if you saw Cam Newton end up as a backup behind Drew Brees or perhaps Russell Wilson? Really, he's a wild card. He'd go anywhere.
Yeah, he couldn't do it. He couldn't go to Seattle. Can't see that happening.
Yeah,
like I said, I can't really. Yeah, I can't really see him. He's too big of a personality. I think Cam would rather sit out than sit behind someone. I mean, even in college, he lost the starting job to Tim Tebow.
All right.
He transferred.
So now what we got, so you're telling me that what we have now on our hands is the Carmelo Anthony of football coming up this year. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm just thinking this is Byron.
Because he's not game. Because
right. I'm just thinking about me when I look at Cam Newton. He's such a big personality. He would have to be. Just can't see him being a backup, man.
Listen, the thing is, it's not all in Cam Newton's hands. I mean, the NFL doesn't want a personality. They want a quarterback that's going to be healthy on the field for 16 games. And he's shown for the past 3 years he's not capable of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been banged up the last couple of years, but at the end of the day,
this guy's seen more knives than Michael Myers.
I mean, let's be honest, though. He's a 30-year-old quarterback, so he's not that old.
But there's a lot of tread on those tires. 6'5". He plays a different style of football.
6'5", 245. Yeah, and I mean, that's something he's going to have to learn is to play better in the pocket. So, I don't know, Mike. We'll see what happens. Maybe he does get a prove-it deal somewhere, and he's able to make some plays. I'd hate to see. I really want to see Haskins get a chance. I think he started to show a couple things later in the year. So I've heard quite a few different rumors about the Redskins moving in a different direction, but we'll see what happens, Mike. I don't know. I mean, don't forget about the Dolphins. They need a quarterback too.
Oh yeah, they're going to get a quarterback, all right. They're going to get a quarterback in the NFL draft.
We'll see. They're probably going to draft that Love kid. They're going to get a bust.
Dude, if they draft that Love kid, they might as well just go out and void all those contracts they just signed on defense. More on that later. You're listening to the Front Porch Tailgate.
Hi everyone. Make sure to follow the Front Porch Tailgate podcast on platforms like Spotify, SoundCloud, Radio Public, and Google Podcasts for all the latest episodes from B. Hayes and Big Mike. Also, don't forget to follow the podcast on Instagram and Facebook for analysis, podcasts, videos, and photos from the show. This message has been brought to you by the 5 o'clock Shadow. Thanks for listening. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast.
Welcome back to the Front Porch Tailgate. I'm Michael Scott, along with my partner here, Byron Hazley. Byron, why don't you lead us into the coronavirus update, COVID-19?
Yeah, Mike, so there's been quite a few changes that have taken place over the last week as far as the sports world goes, due to what we're facing with COVID-19. Some recent announcements that we've had. The NFL draft has canceled the event in Las Vegas for fans, so fans will not attend, and it's still up in the air how they will hold the actual draft itself, whether they'll fly all the teams there for the draft, because you got to remember, that's coming up next month. We're nearing the end of March at this point. I mean, it's March. We're past the halfway
Ever since
point
coronavirus... Ever since
are,
coronavirus hit America, the days have been flying by.
absolutely.
And let me tell you this, with everything that's really going on and how severe I think this virus is, I have a firm belief that the NFL needs to let this draft be conducted from the war room at home of every NFL team. I don't think you should be getting these guys on a plane to go out to Vegas to get them all boozed up after the draft, hanging around dancers, hanging around the casinos.
Agreed.
It's just not a good look for the NFL.
Agreed. I think this should be one, and you know what? Maybe they even go as far, because, you know, sometimes they send out the camera crews to the guys' homes. You know what?
Yeah.
We'll send you a laptop, guys, and let's just Skype it in.
Yeah, but with
Skype you in from your house.
Normally those parties are great there, though. You know, the whole family, the whole neighborhood's there cheering this guy on. He's getting drafted off the couch, you know.
Less than 10, baby.
The whole full spread, the barbecue going. Well, let me tell you, this year that's not going to happen. We have social distancing. These guys are going to be sitting in the living room next to their mom and their dad, and that's probably about it. I think it's going to be a very uneventful NFL draft.
Yeah, you know what? And this is one
probably
draft
be like the Major League Baseball draft. Pretty boring.
Well, yeah. Well, like I was saying, I think the NFL draft, this is probably one of the drafts where the scouts feel the least prepared, being that there's so few workouts that they actually got to see.
Oh, there's so few workouts. There's so few interviews that have been conducted. I really think what we're going to lack in preparation and fan power and attendance, I guess you would say, it's really going to be made up for, because I think once you get into this draft and the selections start rolling, like we were talking about off air, I think you're really going to see some interesting things happening during this draft. A lot of movement, a lot of players falling.
Right. We'll see. Yeah, that we'll see. So then let's move on to the next thing that's popped off recently in sports. So we've had 4 players from the Brooklyn Nets test positive for COVID-19. One of those players being Kevin Durant. The other 3 they kept anonymous. But with that being the case, it's hitting more and more players in the NBA. I think, I don't know if we had broke this story or not, but Christian Wood from the Pistons, he guarded Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz, who was the first player in the NBA to test positive for COVID-19. He had played him a couple nights before, and he tested positive for the coronavirus. So it's kind of going through the NBA, and they've come out and said, you know, a best case scenario for them is a return to play in mid-May. That's best case scenario with no fans in attendance. And, who knows, that could more likely be, June. But they're talking about the NBA Finals taking place in late July, early August, champion being crowned in August. And the worst case scenario would be that the season's over and they're unable to crown a champion.
This whole thing, this coronavirus pandemic, it's just getting out of hand. People are scared. People are nervous. Like you talked about with me earlier, there's conspiracy theories flying around. There's people flying to grocery stores, literally taking everything off the shelves. I've seen you can't even find baby formula some places.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about it is being here in America and living with it, there's definitely some changes going on, but you really don't understand the impact that it's having because the economy is crippling right now. There's people out of work. That's approaching 20% now. And there's 3 out of 4 Brooklyn Nets that aren't even showing symptoms. That's what's crazy. So people are going around, they're not taking this seriously, they're spreading it to people, and they don't even know they have it. It is bad, Byron.
Oh, absolutely. So, for those of you who don't know, my wife's in the medical field, and she told me earlier today she's been following this coronavirus and COVID-19 stuff very closely. She told me that 4 out of 5 are asymptomatic when it comes to the coronavirus. So you're talking about 4 out of 5 people that don't show any symptoms of having coronavirus, and they are, they're contagious. So you may not.
That's why
the scary thing, right?
This is why it's so scary, because when you think about that, Byron, how many Americans out there don't have health care to even go get tested? How many places are tests still not available at this point? And like you said, 4 out of 5, that's a silent killer. This thing can spread all over the place.
Yeah, and let's be honest here, the governor in Michigan, she came out and said last week they can only test 115 per day in Michigan.
That's insane.
With the technology that we have in today's world, you mean to tell me the labs can only test 115 of these in a day? Come on, man.
Well,
figure it out.
Think about it like this. Not only that, but have you seen the numbers on test kits that are readily available? I think you had 1 million this week. I think you have 2 million next week, and you're expecting a order of 5 million the week after that. That's not very much when you're talking about 360 million American people. It's gotten to the point where you got a billionaire in China sending over test kits. So that's fantastic. We got test kits coming over built by the people with the virus. It's all over the boxes. It's all over the test kits, and now we're bringing it to America. Even more of it. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Oh, man. Well, let me finish my update in sports here. So we got the MLB. They've came out, and they're delaying the start of their season. They said till at least mid-May. They're stating at least a mid-May start to their season. Who knows? It could go into June. It could, they could say, you know what? We're just going to play the back half of the season and start it in July. No all-star break. We're just going to start in July. And then
crazy.
we've had...
I'm going to miss the home run derby.
Yeah.
I don't care about the All-Star game, but the home run derby, can't miss that.
You should have watched Trevor Bauer's wiffle ball game.
Yeah, I thought about it, but not. ESPN's going to have to bring back the Big League Challenge then. They're going to have to do something, because we can't go without a home run derby. Maybe they could kick the year off of the home run derby. What do you think about that?
That'd be fun. That'd be fun to watch. But how would they figure out who's in it? Well, I guess it's kind of like the slam dunk contest. They just get volunteers.
Listen, they know who the Bombers are, okay? They know who the Bombers are.
Yeah, but you also got to get the guys to do it. Like, they've been trying to get Aaron Judge back in there. Each year he said no since that 1 year when he won it.
Well, Aaron Judge is the Cam Newton of Major League Baseball, so whatever,
What do you mean?
Guy's hurt all the time. He's hurt right now. He was hurt last year. I mean,
all right.
We talked about this last week on last week's podcast. Go check it out, guys, if you want to know all about how I feel about Aaron Judge.
Well, I just didn't know what you meant in reference to him. I didn't know if you were talking about his personality or
You thought I was talking about
his fashion or, yeah, I just didn't know where you were going with that reference. So thanks for providing some clarity there.
Public service announcement for all the listeners out here listening to Front Porch Tailgate on any major platform. In the future, whenever I refer to Cam Newton, I will be talking about the fact that he's injury prone.
Good to know. All right, so 2 more sports updates for you. So the Euro Cup or Copa, that tournament that was supposed to take place as a soccer tournament in Europe, big tournament. They have moved from the Euro Cup. So it's a big tournament.
Not following.
It's soccer.
Football or soccer?
Football.
Let me tell you something about Euro Cup.
Let me just finish the update, Mike.
No, let me tell you one thing about it. Okay? There's so much soccer going on around the world and so many different leagues and Premier League and Euro Cup League, and then you throw in the World Cup and the Olympics, dude. I feel like there's like 1,000 soccer teams and I don't know the name of one of them.
So
Let
me shed some light on this. I believe the Euro Cup is the tournament of champions. So if you win a league, one of the European leagues, you qualify for the Euro Cup. So then all the champions
every year?
Yeah, so all the champions from last year play this year for the European Cup. Now they're going to push that to 2021.
So that's kind of a big deal then.
It's a very big deal because
I'm kind of disappointed because now that I know what's going on, I kind of want to watch it.
Yeah, because I mean, internationally, soccer's the number 1 sport in the world.
Yeah, I tried playing one year. My mom said I just ran up and down the field looking at my feet, and then I'd run off the field and say, "Mom, look how fast my feet were going." I was 4.
Well, that's probably because you've got one leg longer than the other. You were just struggling to get up and down.
You know how I got that hitch in my step. You know how I got that kicker.
Oh man! All right, and then my left.
You love it, huh? You're thinking about it back to the glory days.
I'm just thinking about you trying to run down the first baseline. You just got that one leg straight out, the other one just working so hard.
Oh yeah. Hey, mid-April, spring training, cold as hell, I'm running with the kicker, and Byron's over there laughing like he is now wearing his earmuffs.
Never wore earmuffs. All right, man. So,
what about Kentucky Derby?
Yeah, so the Kentucky Derby, which is typically right around Memorial Day, which is in May, that will now move to September. And that's tentative, barring that everything's cleared up with COVID-19. They'd like to move that to September. So quite a few things shifting. They've even talked about moving the Masters to later in the year, possibly into October to play then. So we'll see what happens. I know that's been postponed as well, kind of going off the dome with that one too, Mike, but thought I'd throw golf in there that the Masters have been postponed as well. So just a lot going on with sports, and it's all due to COVID-19. We'll see what happens when all the dust settles, but there's quite a bit of dust right now.
See, I don't understand this. It's obviously a liability issue, but professional golf, I can see them, barring the fans from watching, but how are you going to cancel the Masters when you're openly talking about how people can still go out there on the golf course and golf? They're opening golf courses right now, despite the fact we're on this coronavirus epidemic.
Yeah, we'll see how long those courses stay open. I mean, we're seeing more and more businesses shut down each and every day. People are losing their I shouldn't say losing. Well, they're losing their source of income because they're unable to go to work. So they're
not going to be able to pay those membership fees to the club.
They won't be able to pay those green fees. They'll go out there and drop $70 to go play.
Well, what's crazy about them being allowed to actually play, and you think about it, Byron, most of the people playing golf are old. That's like a coronavirus surefire hot zone. Who's going to want to be at the golf course with this going on?
And not only that, they always send you out in groups. Well, some people play solo, but typically they're sending you out in a group of 2 or 4.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
not
good.
social distancing.
I'm good on the golf course. I'm going to social distance. I'll catch you guys on Tiger Woods on the Xbox Live, okay?
Oh, man.
Catch me at the driving range or on Xbox Live. I am not getting on a cart with an old man with a cough.
All right, so with that said, Mike, let's take a little break here. We'll talk to you guys in a moment.
Do you think you have what it takes to get behind the mic on the Front Porch Tailgate podcast? If you have a take or want to appear on the show, make sure to email us at frontporchtailgatepodcast@gmail.com to book your appearance. As always, thanks for listening. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to the Front Porch Tailgate. Byron, we have talked coronavirus and we've talked some of the biggest news from free agency in the NFL. Let's switch up gears for a second because there's so many free agent moves. We're going to get to more of them later, but let's talk about the trading frenzy that's gone along with the start of the new league year.
Yeah, Mike, so we've had some big-time shockers, at least in my opinion. So we've had DeAndre Hopkins, star receiver for the Houston Texans. He's been traded. He's on his way to the Arizona Cardinals in a swap for David Johnson, who was a star. He had one really big year with the Arizona Cardinals. Other than that, he's had some okay seasons, some injury-plagued seasons, but he's on his way to Houston now. So, and I believe they also swapped draft picks, I believe. Houston is getting a second-round pick along with David Johnson and for DeAndre Hopkins, and they're getting a fourth with DeAndre Hopkins. So big surprise there. I mean, Mike, what was your take? What were your initial thoughts on that?
Well, my initial thoughts were this is a fantastic move for the Arizona Cardinals to go out and get Kyler Murray, a big-time receiver, in DeAndre Hopkins. Is Larry Fitzgerald still playing over there, or did he retire?
He is. He said he was going to come back. He had such a good time playing with Kyler Murray and in Cliff Kingsbury's system that he was going to return for
that guy is ageless. Year. He's like the Jerry Rice of the new millennium. But no, in all seriousness, DeAndre Hopkins, that's a big move, for he's still in the prime of his career, in my opinion. And for him to go over to the Cardinals, that definitely helps legitimize that offense. I think David Johnson is a guy who's a little bit he's seen his time as a starting NFL running back. He's definitely a good player, but I don't think he's ever going to be the player he once was. So I think for the Cardinals, this is a steal. Now, here's my question, Byron. Did you see the beef or the issue going on between Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins?
I saw that, and I saw Hopkins came out and said that that's basically fake news. He never had any issues with him.
But what was the actual report, though, of the fake news? They had mentioned the rumor was that they had mentioned Bill O'Brien made a reference to DeAndre Hopkins talking about Aaron Hernandez and his girlfriend or something?
Something like that, Mike. I don't remember the exact reference. I just know Michael Irvin had come out and made a statement that was the core reason behind that. And DeAndre Hopkins came out and said that was flat out not true. Him and Bill O'Brien were fine. What I actually heard later on today was that it had to do, the reason why Houston wanted to deal him was because DeAndre Hopkins wanted a new contract and they weren't willing to give him a contract. They wanted him to play out his current contract, and he said he wasn't going to report to camp and he wasn't going to report to anything until he got a new deal. So they said, well, we'll trade for someone who has a deal. We'll take on the full contract. You guys deal with him, and you can sign him to an extension.
Well, sometimes when you try to pull a power move, it doesn't work in your favor. And if you're DeAndre Hopkins, a wide receiver, that's not something you're going to be able to pull off very well, considering the fact there's 7 receivers in the NFL draft this year that could potentially go in the first round.
Right. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens, but definitely a big surprise to me. I'm of the opinion of you that Arizona definitely got the better end of this deal.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it, baby.
So
what about Stephon Diggs?
Yeah, so Stephon Diggs was traded to the Buffalo Bills for multiple picks, including a first rounder from the Bills. He hasn't been happy in Minnesota for quite some time and was rumored to be on the trading block last fall at the deadline. He ultimately did not end up getting traded. They said he's kind of been treated like a redheaded stepchild out there in Minnesota. I've even heard the likes that people have gone out to Minnesota. You go to like the Mall of America and you can't even find any Stephon Diggs gear. It's all Adam Thielen, right? So, kind of just getting treated like the redheaded stepchild, and he wants out.
Is this like so let me ask you this, is this a disgruntled wide receiver who's upset because he's not getting stroked? Like, he thinks he should be like a Antonio Brown type, big name, jersey sales, getting big money, or what's the deal with this whole Stephon Diggs thing? Because he's had this beef going on for quite some time.
Yeah, I don't know if he didn't like the coaches, if he didn't like playing with Kirk Cousins. I don't know what it was, to be honest with you, Mike. I just know that he's not happy there. I know he hasn't been marketed very well by the Vikings. But to be honest with you, he's been banged up as well himself. So, I think it's good for him to get a fresh start and go somewhere else.
He doesn't necessarily jump off the page. This is a guy who had 60-some receptions last year with just over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. When you think of Stephon Diggs, at least in my mind, I don't think of him as a number 1 wide receiver. I think he's more of a solid number 2. And he's had some decent success over the past few years with the Vikings, playing with Kirk Cousins and opposite of Adam Thielen. But really, I think the Bills got a pretty solid wide receiver that they need, so Stephon Diggs is going to have the potential to go be a good number 1 or number 2 in Buffalo. So it's good for the Bills to go out and further improve that team from last season, who was a playoff team, and then it's also a tremendous move for the Minnesota Vikings, who I believe got 4 draft picks in return, including a first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, it was a solid return for them, giving up Stephon Diggs. He's a guy that's been often injured in his career. I think they got quite a bit for him.
Stephon Diggs going to the Buffalo Bills. And get this.
What's going on here?
I don't know. Something about Stephon Diggs.
800 yards receiving.
Are you playing that?
Last 3 seasons.
Yep, that came through on ESPN. That's disappointing. I was looking up his stat line.
Oh, man.
Hey, we're only on the 28th episode of the podcast. We're still working out a few minor kinks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're on, our 5th remote podcast. So we'll get there, Mikey. But let's move on to the next player on the move. Now, this was a complete surprise to me. So Calais Campbell of the Jacksonville Jaguars, huge defensive end. I think he's like 6'8". He's been traded to the Baltimore Ravens for a 5th round pick. Now he is in the final year of his contract, but still for a 5th round pick for the level of talent that they're getting, I think, the Ravens pulled the fast one on the Jags. What's your thoughts, Mike?
Byron, I think overall, I mean, you talk about the NFL as a business, right? You got Calais Campbell. Yeah, this is a guy who's a veteran in the league. He's been around for quite some time. He's a big-sized defensive end. He was a Pro Bowler last season, and he had, I believe, 6.5 sacks. Now, like you said, he's in the final year of his contract, and really in the NFL, that's the cost of doing business sometimes when you're a team looking to free up cap space for the following season with a veteran player. You know, 5th round pick, I mean, it was either that or they potentially looked at cutting him, taking a dead cap hit. So they really kind of, in my opinion, made a good move.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I don't know.
And you could have cut him. You could have cut him. You got a 5th round pick for him, you know. But I was really surprised to see him go to the Ravens and see them further stock up on defense like they seem to do every single season.
Yeah. I guess rich getting richer there, right? So.
Right. Absolutely.
I guess
globalism in the NFL.
I guess I'm a little salty about it, given what my Lions did, but we'll get into them a little bit later. So from one defensive end to a defensive tackle, so we've got DeForest Buckner moving on from the San Francisco 49ers. He was traded to the Colts. The Colts gave up a 1st-round pick for this young guy. I think he's going into his 3rd or 4th year in the NFL, so a very young player that they've traded away. What were your thoughts on that, Mike?
You know, DeForest Buckner going over to the Colts for a 1st-round pick, I think it's a great move by the Colts to go out and get such a young player that they can add to their offense. They're a team that's very steady on the offensive side of the ball. You know, they have a fantastic O-line. They just brought in Phillip Rivers on a 1-year deal. They're obviously going playoffs or bust. So to trade that 1st-round pick to try and get a solid defensive end to help you win now, I think it's a great move for the Colts.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're going all in. They're making moves here. We'll talk about one of the bigger splashy moves they made in free agency coming up here in a couple minutes. But the Colts are trying to get right back in the fold here, trying to compete for an AFC championship. Tom Brady's out of the mix, so they're trying to slide right back in there. And then one of the other splashier trades that we saw, and this deal was done kind of after another free agency deal was done. So the Falcons let go of Austin Hooper, and they went and traded for Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst was a former 1st-round pick of the Ravens. He ended up falling behind Mark Andrews, but due to injury, and never got another opportunity, just based on the way that Mark Andrews gelled with Lamar Jackson. So Hayden Hurst has been traded to the Falcons, so he'll be the starting tight end for the Falcons come this fall. What were your thoughts on that, Mike?
You know, Byron, honestly, Hayden Hurst is your guy, right? He was a fantasy player that you were big on, potentially, but he dealt with some injury concerns over the past few years?
I guess he's always been a guy that's been said to have a lot of upside. So, yeah.
For me, really, the departure of Austin Hooper and then the trade for Hayden Hurst, for me, in my opinion, the Falcons, it doesn't really move the needle at all.
Interesting. Okay.
What does move the needle for me, if we're talking Atlanta Falcons, is I'm going out and signing Dante Fowler Jr. I like that move.
Yeah, so I think that happened, today or yesterday evening?
Yeah, he signed a 3-year, $45 million deal.
Yeah.
Coming over from, that happened today, coming over from Jacksonville, right?
Yes. No, not Jacksonville. They traded him last year to the Rams. So he was on the LA Rams.
Gotcha.
And so he was a free agent.
That's right.
He's now signing with the Falcons, trying to boost up that defense.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but, I mean, Atlanta's kind of at a crossroads, right? They still got Matt Ryan in there. He's been there for, probably about 10 years, as long as Stafford, maybe a year longer. Maybe a year less. I can't be specific about it, but they're really at a crossroads. I mean, they're letting go of their running back that they just re-signed, to a big contract a couple years ago. Since they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots, this team has been on a steep decline. They got hot at the end of last season. They retained their coach. I don't know how much money they're going out there and trying to spend to get out there and compete, but I just think this is a team that's kind of stuck in limbo right now, and it remains to be seen exactly where they're going to go. But I do like the move picking up Dante Fowler.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll see what happens with the Falcons. I think they're making some right moves here.
Yeah, they do have, though, $23 million on the books in dead cap money this season. Good for third in the NFL. So they're not going to make too many more moves.
Hey, it is what it is, Mike. That's part of the game. So since we kind of transitioned there, starting to talk about some free agents, let's talk about one of the biggest free agent signings outside of Tom Brady is Phillip Rivers signing with the Indianapolis Colts. So when I brought up them giving up their first round pick for DeForest Buckner, you see them then make a move for Phillip Rivers here. 1 year, I believe $25 million they signed him to. So big move for the Colts, trying to go in all in right now. What were your initial thoughts on that, Mike?
Honestly, Byron, I really like the move for the Colts and for Phillip Rivers. This is a guy who, he's in the twilight of his career. He came in with Eli Manning, God knows who long ago, but this is a guy who, statistically speaking, is in the top 10 all time in the NFL in most passing categories. He's a fantastic quarterback. He's kind of declined a little bit the past few years. He threw a lot of interceptions last year playing behind a bad offensive line. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what he can do this season coming up, playing behind a very good offensive line that the Colts have in place. He's teaming up with his old offensive coordinator there, who's now the head coach in Indianapolis. I like the move. I can see some success. And if Phillip Rivers is really over the hill, they got a very solid backup in Jacoby Brissett, who did a fantastic job last year starting for the Colts until he got injured.
Yeah. So what do you think, Mike? Do you think they're true contenders now? Do you think this is a team that can put up with the likes of the Chiefs?
Absolutely, Byron. I don't necessarily know if they're going to compete with the Chiefs, but they're definitely capable of getting into the playoffs with the wild card. I like that running back they got, what's his name, Marlon Mack.
I think he's actually a free agent, Mike.
Is he a free agent? Well, they should re-sign him because I like what he did last year. Great offensive line. Went out and got DeForest Buckner. I think this team, they're a playoff team, and I think adding Phillip Rivers is an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett, if we're being completely honest. Phillip Rivers is not a bum. He's not a slouch. He took a step back last year. Like I said, he played against a very poor offensive line. And even watching Tom Brady last season, lacking talent around you from an offensive line standpoint or receiver standpoint, it can really inhibit your production. I mean, you're talking about his starting running back didn't even play until, the 7th or 8th game of the year?
Yeah, but I mean, if you talk about Pro Football Focus, I think the guy who played for him, I can't remember his name right now. It escapes me, for the Chargers. I believe he ranked out in like the top 5 or top 10 from Pro Football Focus from the running back position. And then you talk about skill position players. He's got a big time receiver in Keenan Allen and another first round pick in Mike Williams, along with a top tier.
Keenan Allen's fantastic. He lost that tight end, that security blanket that he's had for years. Antonio Gates is past his prime. You don't have that safety down the middle of the field.
No, he had Hunter Henry.
Who?
Hunter Henry.
I'm not big on Hunter Henry. And then you had Melvin Gordon, didn't even play till game 7 or 8. So you definitely lack some help at certain points in the year.
Yeah.
But one of the things to note about that, though, and all those interceptions Phillip Rivers threw last year, is he's got that funny throwing motion where he kind of pushes the ball instead of really throwing it, and he kind of like places it. Well, when you get older and your arm strength starts to dissipate, that motion is not necessarily good because you really start lacking a lot of power behind your throws. But at the same time, last year, like you said, he was driving, I think, 3 or 4 hours a day, going back and forth in that Scooby-Doo van to see his kids and going out to L.A. That's definitely going to have an effect on you as a player dealing with that type of daily grind. Now, he's moved to Tampa Bay. His kids, they're nestled safely at home at the house on the beach in Florida with the wife. It's got to be like a 4-story house with those 10 kids he's got. And he's just going to be up in Colts land in Indianapolis focused on football. I like the move.
Yeah, I think that was a good fit for him. It'll be interesting. They've got a very good offensive line. I think one of the top offensive lines in the NFL. Okay receiving core. But a strong run game behind him, and I do stand corrected. Marlon Mack is not a free agent this year. He'll be a free agent next year, so he will be returning. I actually thought it might be a good fit for Melvin Gordon as well to sign there, a kind of smash and dash between him.
That'd be interesting to see.
Marlon Mack, yeah, because
I'd like that.
Marlon Mack's kind of a slight guy, he's not big. But he runs hard, and then you got Melvin Gordon that can come in and take care of that short yardage work.
That'd be kind of like a Willis McGahee, Mark Henry thing all over again, like the Rams had a few years ago.
Yeah, Willis McGahee. Mark Henry.
Or not for the Rams, the Ravens.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Mark Ingram.
What did I say? Mark Henry? Mark Henry's a professional wrestler.
Hold on. It would have been for the Ravens.
Yeah, wasn't it? Oh,
because he was with.
All right, I'm getting myself all
twisted.
I'm getting myself all twisted up between these names and these teams. What I'm really truly thinking is is Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara with the Saints.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm
trying
to
smash and dash. Yep,
I got all twisted up there like a pretzel for a second. I got pretzel in my head.
Yeah, I was like, Willis McGahee, you're going way back. Okay. I was just trying to think who else.
Well, somehow, for some reason, I was thinking Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown at first. I'm like, no, that's not a good one to bring up, And I tried to switch it and I messed up. But let's talk though, like the Colts. This is actually, in my opinion, not a bad move for the Colts because it's a 1-year deal, $25 million. There's no commitment, right? And so you're not taking any long-term risk for the team. And worst case scenario, let's say Phillip Rivers comes in and shits the bed and plays like he did last year for the Chargers. Well, then you're looking at a top pick in the draft. The Chargers are drafted in, I think, 7th this season, 6th or 7th. So, you can't really lose. It's a win-win, in my opinion, if you're the Colts, who have no long-term solution at quarterback because your boy Andrew retired unexpectedly, a year ago. And you got Jacoby Brissett over there.
Yeah, it's kind of a make-or-break deal for them. They're kind of trying to win it now, go in now for the goal while they have the opportunity. So, we'll see what happens out there in Indy. I know they've got a very hungry defense, a solid defense, a great offensive line. So we'll see if Phillip Rivers can bounce back. But from one team not committing to a team that fully committed, let's talk a little bit about Ryan Tannehill getting $118 million from the Tennessee Titans. And yet they only
not a big fan of the deal.
Derrick Henry. Yeah.
Not a big fan of the deal.
I think it's awful.
Ryan Tannehill, he came in last year, did a fantastic job. He took over that offense. They immediately became one of the best offenses in the NFL, and they also made the playoffs. He was an instant leader in the locker room. I think that's a big reason why the team signed him long term. They liked how he worked with the wide receivers. He really got in touch with them, kind of like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady used to do with all their guys. But let's face it, Derrick Henry carried this team last season all the way to the AFC Championship game. He did an incredible job. Now, this is a guy who should have got a long-term deal. He obviously didn't because he plays running back, and I think we talked earlier in the year about how the running back position has really been devalued in the NFL. Every time one of those guys seems to get a big contract, they really don't come out and perform at the level that they did before. So I understand Tennessee not taking the risk. What I don't understand, I guess, is why you go out and sign Ryan Tannehill to $118 million long term, knowing there's not a long enough track record of success, especially with the questions he had coming out of Miami the year before last year, and pass on a guy who was seriously, I believe, interested in going to your team, like a Tom Brady, that could potentially propel you from the AFC Championship to the actual Super Bowl. So to me, it does not make a lot of sense if I'm the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, Mike, to be honest with you, I'm sure they messed up, in my opinion, there. There's kind of a slap in the face to Derrick Henry. They rode the guy. Ryan Tannehill was winning games, throwing, for like 80 yards, and it wasn't, they couldn't depend on the guy when they needed him. That's what happened to him in the AFC Championship game. They dared him to beat him. He couldn't do it. So, not someone that I'm handing out $118 million to. I would have offered him half of this and seen what he said. No way I'm giving a guy that couldn't even get a starting job last year $118 million contract. Like, you didn't start for me last year. I'm not making you my franchise guy. Sorry.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about commitment, let's talk about some of the commitments that the Dolphins made this offseason. So these guys have been the biggest spenders during the free agency period, one of the biggest spenders. So you got Byron Jones. He signed to a huge deal. Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy of the New England Patriots, Shaq Lawson, I believe he was with the Buffalo Bills, if I'm not mistaken, and then Eric Flowers, who's an offensive tackle. All four of these guys signed with the Dolphins for a combined $193 million.
Yeah, they definitely went all in. I like what they did on defense, going out, picking up Byron Jones, probably the top cornerback on the free agent market. They go pick up a very solid linebacker, Kyle Van Noy, been a veteran with the Detroit Lions and the New England Patriots. Definitely made a lot of turnovers for the Patriots last year, picks up a lot of fumbles. And then you got a guy like Shaq Lawson, who played for the Bills, and Shaq Lawson, his production's been a little bit up, a little bit down, throughout his career, very inconsistent. However, coming in the NFL draft, he was a top round pick, very athletic. I think he's a guy that can play either defensive end or linebacker for you, and I think Miami's going to be able to capitalize on that athleticism. And let's face it, some of these guys in the NFL don't really pan out as being that consistent veteran on their first contract, and you see them end up in a situation like Shaq Lawson going to Miami, and they turn out being a very good signing for the team at a good value. I think they got him at about $10 million a year for 3 years. Not too bad. Not long commitment. Not astronomical.
Yeah, I hear ya. I question some of the way that they spent this money. I mean, they already had Xavier Howard. He was the highest paid cornerback. Now they have Byron Jones. So they have the number 1 and number 2 highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL on their team. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and if that turns into the number 1 and number 2 corners in the NFL. Not very likely, but we'll see what happens, Mike. I don't know. They spent a lot of money, Mike. I don't know if they're going to get their return on investment here.
Well, here's the thing. Miami tanked last year, right? Now, what you're looking at is they spent a lot of money. You're talking about the big number, the millions combined. You know, what you're not seeing is this team went out and got 4 really good players, and they still have a ton of cap space. This is a team that had an open cap of about $80 million. They definitely still have more flexibility to go out and get more free agents to round this team out. They could even make a splash signing a guy like Antonio Brown, maybe. Let's go down the happy trail. I want to see Antonio Brown get some money out here this offseason. And it definitely lines them up to what they're building is a solid defense and getting a solid offensive lineman so that they can go out into the draft and get a solid rookie franchise quarterback to build around for the next few years.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see, Mike. We'll see what happens. I'm questioning it.
I think
put it that way.
Well, let me ask you this. What would you have done with the money if you were the Dolphins?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you have to spend it, right? You got to.
If you have the money,
some talent somewhere. Yeah. So I hear
you can't tank. You can't tank again next year. You can't bring in a rookie quarterback and not get a tackle to protect him. And you sure as hell can't be letting up points like you were last year. The thing about this is you have another defensive coordinator down there that took over Miami from the New England Patriots, right? He's going to go out, he's going to build this team around the defense just like Matt Patricia is doing in Detroit and just like Belichick's done his entire career. And what they do is they go out and they make short-term contracts to solid veterans at good values. And these guys were all signed for pretty good value. Let's be honest here. The long term, $193 million combined over the long term, yeah, it's a pretty penny, but what you're going to get is a bunch of veterans giving you solid production. Byron Jones, I think he's fantastic. Like I said, Kyle Van Noy gets his hands in there on a lot of turnovers. Shaq Lawson, very athletic, and Eric Flowers, he's going to protect your investment for the future.
Pretty steep to me, Mike. We'll see how it all plays out. I hope it works out for him.
You can always be you could go look at the Detroit Lions. They essentially did almost the same thing. And these guys are value shopping. They're value shopping compared to the Dolphins, okay? You want talent in the NFL, you gotta pay for it.
Yeah, we'll get to the Lions, Mike.
You want the bargain barrel, go to Detroit.
Like I said, we'll get to the Lions.
Yeah,
let's talk about...
they're coming up quick.
Yeah, let's talk about the Bears here. Let's move into some of the moves they made. So today, they trade for Nick Foles to come in and compete with Mitch Trubisky for the starting job in Chicago. Now, the Bears will tell you that it is Mitch Trubisky's job to lose. But, they brought Nick Foles in for a reason. They're trying to see if Mitch truly is the guy. This is a contract year for him. They turned down the team option for 2021. So this is it for Mitch. This is a make or break year. If he doesn't show well, they've got Nick Foles there to come in and kind of lead the guard. You saw what he was able to do with the Eagles, led them to a Super Bowl. So yeah, then on top of that, the Bears also brought in Robert Quinn, a veteran defensive end. So, two of the more splashy moves in Chicago.
Let me ask you this. Did Robert Quinn also come from Los Angeles?
He was in St. Louis. I don't believe he ever made it to Los Angeles. I think they either cut him or traded him before he went.
So who did he play for last season?
Let me look that up. For you, Mike. The Cowboys.
Okay, so Robert Quinn played for the Cowboys last year. So Cowboys lose a defensive end. He's the Bears gain 5 years, $70 million. It's a pretty hefty price tag too, but you're the Chicago Bears. You do stupid shit all the time. Nick Foles, this is my thing with the Bears. They've needed a quarterback for who knows how long. I mean, the last time they went to the Super Bowl was over 10 years ago, and they went with Rex Grossman, who was also terrible. They needed a quarterback then, and you draft Mitch Trubisky. You trade up to get him at number 2 in the draft a couple years ago. He's been inconsistent. Wasn't too good as a rookie, had a great sophomore year and definitely took some steps back last season. Now he's in his 4th year and he's got to prove it. And I get you bringing in a quarterback, a veteran quarterback, to push him or replace him in the event he doesn't play well. But Nick Foles, to me, a lot of people are high on Nick Foles. I am not at all. I feel like you made this trade for Nick Foles. You could have easily went out and made a trade for a guy like Cam Newton, who, let's face it, if you're taking a gamble and committing big money to a backup quarterback, you might as well go with one that's more talented and has a better track record. Nick Foles is this cult hero from Philadelphia because he beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Got hot for a couple games.
So you're not a believer in Nick Foles?
I am not a big-time Nick Foles fan. If he couldn't start last year, what makes me think he's going to be any better this year?
He
lost his job, though, is what I'm saying, to Mustache. He lost his job to Mustache Man. What's his name?
Well, hold on.
We can't even remember his name. Gardner
Minshew, but hold on here. So he didn't lose his job. Let's get one thing straight.
He lost his job. He came back. He came back after injury. Played and lost his job again.
Hold on. So Nick Foles started the season fully healthy. He gets hurt week 1. Gardner Minshew comes in, starts making plays, right? Gets the fans excited. They like what they're seeing. Nick Foles, he comes back from an injury. Gardner Minshew had kind of he hadn't done well in a couple games, so they said, all right, let's throw Nick Foles in there, see if he can spark us, get us some more excitement. He didn't do well. He was still a bit banged up, and so they elected to move on from Nick Foles, right? And brought Gardner Minshew in because they had nothing to play for. But let's get one thing straight here. It wasn't due to poor play by Nick Foles. He was hurt. He got hurt last year. It was basically a lost season for him.
Definitely.
But, I guess to your point, as a starter, outside of a couple splashy years, I believe he still has a completion percentage, I think, or most touchdowns to interceptions. He's got some kind of record in the NFL, for his year with the Eagles when he just blew up that one year. I can't remember. It was with Chip Kelly, but he had a huge season for them. Great year passing the ball. Maybe it was passer rating, but outside of that year and the big year with the Eagles where he took over for Carson Wentz, led them to the Super Bowl, outside of that, he's been very, I guess you could say, forgettable. Right. So I agree with you there.
Exactly what he is, forgettable.
Yeah. So, I think, but in my mind, I think this is a good move for Chicago. Bring someone in to push Mitch Trubisky to find out if this is their guy. Because if not, now they know they can move on from Mitch and go draft someone next season. That's my whole thoughts behind this, and I think that's where the Bears are coming from.
Well, they better do something, because Mitchell Trubisky is not too high on the top performers list. After watching him last season, the Chicago Bears kind of had him standing in the pocket, didn't play very well. He started doing all right at the end of the season when they started letting him move around a little bit more, but really, they just got to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and some teams never do. And so while we're on that, we'll talk about one team that has in the past but hasn't for a very long time. Let's talk about those boys down in Dallas. They made a couple moves this week, throwing some cash out there. So, Mike, fill us in on what the Cowboys have done.
Well, they went out and they committed $100 million to Amari Cooper. He's been another Dallas player that's been looking to extend his contract, re-sign with the team for quite some time. They went out and added Gerald McCoy, defensive end from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very good veteran. At one point, he was one of the top defensive linemen in the National Football League. For me, really, this is comical, right? The moves are good for the Dallas Cowboys, who are obviously lining up to compete for another Super Bowl. The issue I have with this is the culture there in Dallas. Don't get me wrong, Jerry Jones and his son Stephen Jones have done a fantastic job in drafting players, developing players, and re-signing players, right? And really trying to build this culture in Dallas. But the problem is, your biggest locker room leader, Dak Prescott, is the last guy that's literally getting a restructured contract with the franchise. Now, that's not necessarily all Dallas's fault. I think, in my opinion, Dak Prescott's absolutely crazy because the Cowboys have officially announced in the past few weeks that they offered him between $33 and $35 million per season and over $100 million guaranteed, and he turned it down. I don't understand why this guy thinks he's worth so much money, because either way you shake it, the problem is in Dallas, it wasn't the defense last year. It wasn't the fact that they didn't have a lot of pieces around Dak Prescott. The problem that they didn't win football games is because Dak Prescott underperformed playing against playoff teams. He went a combined 1-7, threw 8 touchdowns and had 8 interceptions. And I've been preaching this for weeks. And really, he needs to wake up, smell the coffee, and join us here in reality, because I don't know what kind of money he thinks he's going to get out there on the market, because the Dallas Cowboys and the rest of the NFL know that Dak Prescott choked big time against the teams that mattered most.
I'm right there with you, Mike.
I'm a little fired up about it. When you turn down $100 million, I make a combined probably $40,000 a year. You know, you're turning down $100 million. You must be crazy.
I mean, hey, he thought he was worth more than that. I mean, you see the going rate when they're handing out, Ryan Tannehill getting up 118. I would ask for more than $100 million too. I mean, if you compare what the two of them did.
I get it, okay? Byron, I get it. Like, if you're comparing yourself to the rest of the market, you're going off Jared Goff in St. Louis and the monster contract he got. Ryan Tannehill, yeah, he got $118 million. It's not all guaranteed. But you got $100 million guaranteed, averaging $33 to $35 million a year over, what was it, 5, 6, 7 years? I mean, that's a $200+ million contract. Who do you think you are? You're not Russell Wilson. You don't win football games when they matter. You haven't won a Super Bowl. You've never been an NFL MVP. And the numbers don't lie. When you play playoff teams last year in your contract year, you choked. You can't blame it on anybody else. Everyone was there. The team made it a point to make sure Zeke got on the field week 1 so that they'd have that running game to support him. They had an entire team built around him. The Dallas Cowboys should have been a playoff team last year in the conference championship, if nothing else. But instead, you got Dak Prescott out here acting like he's the shit, turning down $100 million. Gotta be fucking kidding me. You all right over there? I'm having a heart attack over here. This is unbelievable.
Oh, man, this is unbelievable.
I hope he's happy watching all his millions get passed out to the rest of the NFL, because you know where he's going? Free agency next year after they go 6-12 12 because they increased the games. 6 and 11, whatever. Good Lord. Who turns down 100 million pesos? When we're going through the stuff we're going through out here in this day and age. I'm waiting on $1,000 check from the government because of coronavirus to help me get through because it's stocked up on toilet paper and food, ammo, and everything else. And you know what? He's turning down $100 million? Boy, you must be crazy. You don't even want to know what Dak Prescott's grandma said.
Oh, man.
He's probably going to be in big trouble next time he goes home for a family holiday.
Oh. I think he's just going to bet on himself.
Last I checked, he's making $500,000 this year.
Well, no, he got franchise tagged, so he's in line.
Till this year, he ain't made $1 million in a year.
Yeah.
Other than make Campbell Chunky Soup commercial. But you know what? This boy is crazy. This man is crazy.
Yeah, well, he's
Jerry
betting
Jones
on
is going to laugh all the way to the bank to get everyone else their money. Because what Dak Prescott really is showing Jerry Jones is that it's more important to him to be a status quarterback than to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And they're not going to come out and say that, but that's exactly what's going on. Both sides are going to get tired of this. I think Jerry making a second offer to him and him turning that down, I think he's done. Unless he goes out there and wins a Super Bowl this year or wins an NFL MVP, he's going bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I think if he underperforms this year, he's gone. They got a new coach there. I think this is kind of a prove-it situation for him. So if he doesn't perform well, he's going to be gone. Hell, Jameis might be there this year. Wait.
Dallas Cowboys got me losing my shit on the podcast. Unbelievable.
Well, let's just stay up there because we know we're going right back. So the Lions, they went out and basically made the New England Patriots Midwest. So they brought in Jamie Collins. They brought in an offensive lineman from the Eagles. I can't even pronounce the young man's name. Vatai. I know he started 2 games. Yeah,
Hal Vatai.
Okay, so Hal started 2 games last year, and they gave him $60 million. They brought in Nick Williams. They brought in Chase Daniels to be a backup quarterback.
You got $15 million a game?
Yeah.
$30 million a game?
Well, hey man, they brought in Danny Sheldon from the Patriots, and they traded for Duron Harmon from the Patriots, a safety. So, and then later on this evening, they just signed Desmond Trufant. So, I mean, as far as my take on this, Mike, to be honest with you, you know, I've been very patient, to say the least, with these 2 guys, and I've come to the conclusion that these guys don't know what the hell they're doing. They have no clue.
Can I be completely honest with you, Byron?
Go ahead.
I feel like we could run a better Detroit Lions franchise than these jackasses.
It's very possible, Mike. I feel like these guys are just looking for people that they've already had previous relationships with and just seeing who can come and will take the money. Like, hey, man, if you come here, I'll pay you $12 million a year. Just come. Hey, the most I was given was $4 million. I'll be there.
Let's take a step back here, though, right? Because I'm following you, Byron. If you're a Detroit Lions fan and you got $50 million in cap space and you got the free agent, signing opening up on Monday, this is not what you want to happen. Okay? You could have went out and got Bruce Irvin. Bruce Irvin went back to the Seattle Seahawks, probably on a modest contract, You could have got Malcolm Jenkins on a modest 4-year, $32 million. Hell, you could have got a left tackle, Andre Whitworth, 3 years, $12.5 million. Gerald McCoy. I mean, the list goes on, right? So what you have here is a case of the NFL being a trendy league, right? It's a copycat league. You got a young first-time head coach who has had terrible results in his first 2 seasons at the helm. I mean, Matt Stafford, got hurt last year. They still would have been terrible. They were already losing before he got hurt, right? Fell off the wagon after getting off to a hot start. But digressing back to the signings. So what you got is a young coach, and you got a GM who came from the Patriots trying to basically, like you said, convert the Detroit Lions into their own version of the New England Patriots. Now, I get it. These guys have said time and time again, they're attempting to build a winning culture in Detroit, which is lacked for the entire modern NFL Super Bowl era. These guys have never been to a Super Bowl, and it appears after this week they're not going anytime soon. But let's talk about it a little bit. Jamie Collins, I think he's a very good linebacker for the team. He had pretty good results. He forces turnovers. He's a very good linebacker, to go in and join that defense, considering what they already have. So I believe they upgraded at the position. Now, Hal Vaitai, you said he got $60 million for 2 starts last year?
Yeah.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
No. I'm saying he got paid by the Lions after only having made 2 starts last season.
That's what I'm saying. He earned $30 million for a start last year? Going out on the market? Yeah. Must be a real up-and-comer. Now, who's this Nick Williams fellow? What is he?
Oh, he's a solid defensive tackle. They need a run stopper after moving on from Snacks Harrison. So that's actually a really good pickup for him.
I'm not upset about it because it means they're not going to go in the draft and waste their first-round pick on that clown from Auburn that everyone's talking about. That's going to be a bust. And then they also got Trent Sheldon, another defensive tackle. So we're good. We're covering the draft. We're going to either get a cornerback or a linebacker. Probably not a linebacker now that we got Jamie Collins. We're probably getting a cornerback.
Right. All signs point to them drafting a Kodu. Or is that his last name?
Jeff Okudah from Ohio State.
Jeff Okudah.
So all signs point to that. I'm not upset about this because it looks like we're upgrading. We're solving the issues that we had last year. Those main issues were the fact that we need to upgrade on defense. We're bringing in line help. We're bringing in linebacker help. We're bringing in safety help, with Duron Harmon. And we also got cornerback help in Desmond Trufant. And we've really spread this $50 million around pretty good. We got Chase Daniel in the house for just shy of $4.5 million over the next 3 years. So Stafford goes down again with that back. We can get by, But here's my thing. We're Lions fans. We're starving for a Super Bowl. We're starving for playoffs, And
we need something.
You're building the team the way you need to build it. But like I said earlier when we were referencing the Dolphins, you had the money to go out and get some talent. What you really went out and got now are a bunch of question marks. And a lot of your question marks, some of these guys are good young players, but then I look at a cheap deal to Desmond Trufant. Yeah, he's a veteran cornerback, but he's also over the hill. This guy's going to get burned out here.
Yeah, and what's even worse, Mike, is since
nobody else wants him and you threw him a bone.
Well, what's even worse, Mike, is that they're now talking about trading, like it's all but a foregone conclusion that they're going to trade Darius Slay now. So now they're going to have Desmond Trufant as our number 1 cornerback.
Let me tell you this right now. They signed Michael Ford to play cornerback. I mean, what are these guys cornerback? What are these guys doing? They got Desmond Trufant at 2 years and $21 million to start for this team to try and make the playoffs or lose their jobs. They're going to trade Slay? They're not even going to get a first-round pick for Slay.
So this brings me back to my original point, Mike, that these guys do not know what the hell they are doing.
Yeah, you might be
right.
At this point, I like the way they're building the team. I just don't like the way they're building it with the players they're getting. Like, I like the idea. Like, hey, let's get some line help. Let's get some linebacker help. Let's get some defensive back help because, let's face it, our defense was trash last year. So we're upgrading defense. I love it. But what I don't love is who they brought in to do it.
Right.
They're obviously going to get rid of Slay because they're thinking Okudah is going to be their number 1,
Right.
Desmond
but who
True,
comes
they
in?
think he's a stud, but why don't you keep Slay for a year?
Right.
Why don't you keep Slay for one more year, see if he has a good year, and because it's going to be tough if they're trying to go. You got to think, put yourself in an opposing quarterback shoes, right? Opposing quarterback shoes. So you're looking at a defense who's got some good linebackers, some good defensive linemen, and you got a great defensive backfield from what I'm seeing. This Harmon kid that they got from the Patriots, he's only 26 or 27, and this is a guy who's got modest numbers as a rotational defensive back in his career in New England. He's not some scrub, okay? Now, you got Slay on this side. Let's say they go out and get Okudah. You got Okudah on that side, right? And then you got Desmond Trufant playing in the slot. I mean, it's getting locked down out there, and you're going to have a lot of interception opportunities for both Okudah, who's a lockdown defensive back, and Darius Slay, who's also a lockdown defensive back. So it's going to be pick city out there. But instead, you're going to go trade him for a second-round pick, keep him for a year, lock that passing game down, and hopefully Darius Slay either re-signs or at least has a good enough year that you can trade him for a first-round pick.
And let's be honest here, the Lions, I believe they ranked in the top 3, or actually no, I think they were number 2 in the NFL in man-to-man coverage. So we put our corners out there on an island, whereas man up, mano-a-mano, let's see what you can do to cover someone. So honestly, I am of the same thought process as you. Keep Slay. Let's bring in Okudah. If he wins the outside position, let's put him there. If not, let's have him man the slot for the season, and then we can bump him outside the next year, or we can force him to be the number 2 corner and move Trufant to the slot. But either way,
right,
we've got to figure out something other than what they're actually planning to do.
Right. Let's go out there and win some football games. Lock some people down.
Is it possible for Martha Ford to fire these guys prior to the draft?
Well, who knows? Martha Ford's old. She might have a respiratory infection come football season. So, I'm done. I'm done talking Lions. I'm done talking Cowboys. That's for sure.
Hi everyone, make sure to follow the Front Porch Tailgate podcast on platforms like Spotify, SoundCloud, Radio Public and Google Podcasts for all the latest episodes from B. Hayes and Big Mike. Also, don't forget to follow the podcast on Instagram and Facebook for analysis, podcasts, videos, and photos from the show. This message has been brought to you by the 5 o'clock shadow. Thanks for listening. Now sit back, relax and enjoy the podcast.
Welcome back to the Front Porch Tailgate. I'm not having a heart attack. I've cooled off. Byron, let's get to the rumor mill.
Yeah, Mike's quite a few rumors swirling. I think there's a little bit of truth behind each rumor. So let's take it out to L.A. Let's take it out to L.A. to the... Oh, man, are you hearing that noise in the background?
I'm hearing you.
Okay.
Taking it out to L.A.
I had some noise. I was looking at an article and it started playing sound. So apologies there.
Wouldn't be the first time tonight.
Right. So Todd Gurley out in L.A. with the Rams. They're saying that the Rams are ready to move on from Todd Gurley. They put him on the trading block. I don't think they've gotten a lot of bites. So the latest that I've actually heard today is that the Rams may actually cut Todd Gurley. And I know earlier in the show you had brought up Todd Gurley going to Tampa. And it'll just make it that much easier if they cut him. So what's your thoughts here on Todd Gurley? Are you buying this rumor? And is this something you think should happen?
You know, Byron, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I'm buying it. Todd Gurley's legs are shot. That contract is shot. He's going to be a hot shot for 1 year playing with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay.
All right. So then let's move
and then
on.
the wheels are going to fall off.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
And when the wheels fall off, he's just another one that we'll always remember. I mean, this guy's knees were tore up coming out of college. I mean, I don't understand why the Rams gave him the contract they did. Incredibly talented, terrible knees.
Well, I mean,
if he wants to stay in the NFL, he better go talk to Frank Gore about what he does for his knee therapy.
Yeah, because, I mean, Frank Gore tore up his knees quite a few times, too. I think he's got 3 ACL surgeries on his knees.
He tore 2 before he got to the pros, and then he tore 1 in the pros.
Yeah, so...
Tore each knee before he got to the pros.
And he's, on year 20? So he's figured it out.
Frank Gore's, he's a truck.
Yeah. But, alright, so let's move on to the next point here, Mike. So, there's been rumors swirling that either Odell Beckham or Jarvis Juice Landry will be traded prior to the beginning of the 2020 season. Are you buying this? Do you think this is a good move for the Browns? What are your thoughts here?
I'm not buying this at all. I think this is nothing more than fake news being manufactured by who knows who. But you don't go all in on a team last year, have a bad season, and then tear the team down. You know, you went out, you traded capital for Odell Beckham Jr., you got Juice Landry, you got Baker Mayfield back. Baker Mayfield says he's going to get in better shape and commit to winning this year. He's going to get with the receivers like Tom Brady does. So you don't just tear that down. You know, the Browns have been out there, you know, signing up people to come in and play for Cleveland again this year. They're having one of the better off seasons, I guess you would say, from a free agency standpoint, as told by ESPN. I don't know if that's necessarily true either, but you get what I'm saying? They're still continuing to try to go all in and build around these guys. You don't tear that down. I think after this season, if they don't play well, yeah, then you tear it apart. But you got to at least see Baker Mayfield through his 3rd season with those tools.
Well, let's remember the only consummate in that whole situation is the owner, right? So the GM's gone, the head coach is gone, they've got a whole new regime in there. So given the amount of money that they've spent on these players, I think it's very possible that they could be moving one of those guys. And I hope that Detroit is in on that. We need some more talent out there. Come on, Detroit.
Dare to dream.
Dare to dream. Well, you know what I really would like to see? One of them head out to KC with my boy Pat Mahomes.
You know what I want to see? You know what I really want to see? That's not happening. Don't even go there, brother. Don't even go there. They don't got the cap space for that. They just let Robinson go. Now, listen here. Don't even go there. I'm not trying to get fired up on Pat Mahomes tonight, okay? I'm already fired up.
Move on from Sammy Watkins. That would free up some space.
You know what? Knock it off.
All right.
So,
all right.
Maybe next week, okay? Or, you know, after the draft, you can get into those summer rumors. So, here's my thing with the Lions, since you're thinking Lions again. I'm just hoping. I mean, we're definitely going to get Okudah, number 3. We need a running back. I'm really hoping that we go out and we can get your guy from Wisconsin falling to us at number 3 in the 2nd round.
Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor, he had a fantastic combine. And with that speed, he's likely to go in the 1st round, but let's hope he falls.
Absolutely. So from a rookie quarterback to a veteran, there's been rumors that Jordan Howard will be moving down to Miami, down to South Beach to play for the Dolphins. You buying that, Mike? You think that's a good move? What are your thoughts?
I'm not buying that.
No?
Who knows? Let me be completely honest about it, Byron. I don't even know who Jordan Howard is.
He was a running back for the Bears a few years back. Last year he was with the Eagles and he got hurt.
Oh, that's why I was that's why I was confused. I think you said like cornerback or quarterback by accident. You didn't say running back. That's who I thought originally was.
Oh, I thought I said from one running back to another.
Oh, you said like corner or quarterback by accident.
Okay.
Anyways, I was thrown off. I know who Jordan Howard is if we're talking the running back now. And I'm not trying to be a dick either, because I really believe that there was a cornerback or quarterback named Jordan Howard. And I'm like, I don't know who that is.
A lot of names in the NFL.
Yeah, there's a lot. We've thrown out quite a few names tonight. So Jordan Howard, though, to the Dolphins, it's not a bad move. You know, I think necessarily got injured last year, you know, when he kind of lost his spot with a couple other guys who overperformed, you know. And so I think him going down to Dolphins, I think that's very likely considering the fact they need a run game. And he's still a very serviceable veteran, you know. I mean, this move for me really has Ryan Matthews written all over it. I feel like Jordan Howard's the new version of Ryan Matthews, just keeps getting traded, you know. It's moving on.
I hear you, Mike. Yeah, I think it's very likely that this happens. They are in dire need of a running back. I think they'll either bring in him or Melvin Gordon, because Melvin Gordon's still looking for a home himself. All right, so that's all we had here for the rumor mill. So let's move on, Mike, to our final take. So I'll let you take the floor here.
All right, so final take. Give me a second, Byron. I completely forgot what my final take was going to be. What was I going to talk about? Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm ready. So, for my final take, Byron, it's not even really sports related this week. This is humankind related, right? So, last week there were a lot of individuals laughing at me because I was telling people to go out and get themselves the proper home essentials because I knew that people were going to be pulling all of this stuff off all the shelves. I knew we were going to have a shortage of toilet paper. I believe I told you this last week, right? You there, Byron?
I'm here, Mike. Go ahead. Yeah, I know you stocked up on the TP. You're in preparation for the lockdown.
Well, there's a lot of people laughing at me right now, but who's laughing? Because they can't go out and get toilet paper. But let me tell you what they can get. What they can get is a shower head from Walmart for $12.99 so that they can wash their ass. Now, in all seriousness, though, this coronavirus is out there. It's an epidemic. It's sweeping our nation. I think it's extremely important, and it would be irresponsible of us to conduct this podcast and not tell people that what you really need to do is buckle down. You need to stay inside. Social distancing and good hygiene is extremely important in these times because this is something that our government and we ourselves are fighting on a daily basis, but it has no face, and we don't realize how dangerous it is. It's making changes to our daily way of life at this point, and it could get a whole lot worse. So let's do the proper thing, and this weekend, everybody stay home, stay inside with the family, binge on some Netflix, and let's get through this. It's going to take some time, but what we don't need is people panicking, and what we don't need is people continuing going around spreading this carelessly. Do you have any thoughts on it, Byron?
No, I mean, they need to listen to the government. I mean, when you start looking at where we are versus where Italy was, you know, we're trending at the same rate as they were, and we see where they're at. I mean, we're already over 100 deaths in the United States, so people need to take this serious. You can't be out here roaming around, acting a fool. Get yourself inside, spend some time with your family, spend some time with Netflix and chill with yourself. You know?
Yeah, learn to get along with your significant other again, you know? Find something to do where you guys can both get on the same page. Hang out with the kids, you know? Be a family man, be a family woman, be a family whatever, but seriously, stay in and be safe. Like Byron said, we are trending as being equivalent with Italy to this point. Now here's the kicker. A lot of people will say, well, we have so many far less people in this country than Italy does. True. However, so our rate of infection is lower, which is true, but at the same time, what people aren't thinking about is the way this virus spreads. It has the potential to be even more catastrophic than what's happening in Italy, because we are a country of 360 million people, and the average between what Byron's wife has been hearing and what we've been hearing and learning through cases is that the infection rate on this is only showing symptoms on about 25 to 20% of the people that get it. So you got to be extremely careful moving forward, guys.
Absolutely.
With that being said, I'm Michael Scott.
I'm Byron Hazley. Be safe, be blessed.
You've been listening to the Front Porch Tailgate. Have a great weekend sitting at home.
Hey sports fanatics. You've been listening to the Front Porch Tailgate, presented by the 5 o'clock Shadow. If you enjoy what you're listening to, make sure to follow this podcast on platforms like Spotify, Radio Public, SoundCloud, and Google Podcasts for hot takes, podcasts, and more. Also, make sure to help spread the word and share your favorite episodes across social media with all your friends. Thanks for listening. Until next time, have a great day.